Okay, so we are gonna. This is a sikha on Pesach Sheni. Since this week's parsha, we learn about Pesach Sheni, so we will learn about the connection between Pesach Sheni and the Geula. This is a sikha from the Rebbe from Tafshin and Aleph, 1991. So we're going to start from the third paragraph on page 192, second page of your downloads. It's known, the saying of my father-in-law, the Frierdiker Rebbe, in other words, the Rebbe's father-in-law, concerning what we derive as a lesson, a directive from Pesach Sheni. That in Hebrew it says, She'ein davar avud. There is nothing that is lost. In other words, in Yiddish we say, it's never, it's never too late. And we're always able to repair. As it's emphasized in the repair and the completion of Pesach Rishon through Pesach Sheni, when the Yidden were in the wilderness and they complained that they weren't able to bring the Pesach Rishon that's supposed to be brought on the 14th of Nisan and eaten on the night of the 14th going into the 15th. So Moshe Rabbeinu told them, you know what? We could make it up. You could make it up on Pesach Sheni. You can make it up a month later on the 14th of Iyar and then have the Pesach instead. And this is a halacha. Goes on for all time. When we had the Beis Hamikdash, that if someone couldn't make it the first Pesach, he could make it on Pesach Sheni. So from this, we derive a lesson. The Frierdiker Rebbe says that it's never too late. So the Rebbe goes on to say that this is also connected with the future redemption. Since Pesach is connected and associated with the true and complete redemption, like it says. I don't know if lawyers like your days going out of the land of Mitzrayim. I will show you wonders, moving, it's understood. The Pesach Sheni, that the primary repair and the completion, that the Pesach Rishon gets completed, the first Pesach becomes fulfilled through the second Pesach, is concerning the true and complete redemption. In other words, that's when we have it perfected, and that's when we have the ultimate level is concerning the future redemption. And the Rebbe earlier in the Farbrengen spoke about that the month of Iyar, in which Pesach Sheni comes out, and in which the Rebbe originally said this Farbrengen, is called also in Tanakh. The month of Iyar is called Ziv. Ziv is another word, another name for the month of Iyar as it's brought down in Tanakh. And what is the meaning of the word Ziv? That the idea of a Ziv is light and revelation. Meaning in our case, where Pesach Sheni comes in connection or in fulfillment and repair for Pesach edition, the redemption that was supposed to come in the first Pesach comes in actuality in a manner of a light and revelation. It's a ray in the second Pesach, and even more in depth. The light and revelation, which is Ziv, is not just concerning the revelation of the redemption. So that's the idea of a ray, a light. It's just the revelation of the redemption. It shines a light and reveals what is the true meaning behind Godless, which the true meaning of Godless becomes revealed through Geula. So it's not just about the revelatory light of the redemption, but it's also revealing what the Godless was all about. When the Geula will come, So then the meaning of Godless will become revealed to us. That the lack and deficiency of Godless becomes fixed up and repaired and perfected and completed. What becomes revealed when Mashiach comes is Shekol Inyanoi Einoi Elo Shaidezi Yavoyum Le'ilu Yachigod Lagula. That the entire matter of Golus becomes revealed, how its entire purpose is that they should come to the great quality and advantage of the redemption, as we will speak further on. Yuvim behegdem habir betoichna in the Pesach Sheni. This will be understood by first prefacing the idea of the second Pesach. Hatzivui the Pesach Sheni, the command of the second Pesach, shal yodei nasa hatikun v'ashlemus the Pesach Rishon, that through Pesach Sheni becomes the repair and the perfection of the first Pesach. Bol achrei v'ayidei haktamas hatayna lama nigara lebilti hakriv et korban Hashem. It came only after and through the preceding complaint of why should we be missing? Why should we not have the opportunity to offer the korban of Hashem? In other words, Pesach Sheni did not come about in a vacuum. Moshe Rabbeinu did not just come to the Yidden and tell them, you know what? Those of you that missed the first Pesach, you're going to get a second Pesach. It's not how it came. What happened was they couldn't bring the first korban Pesach. Then they came to Moshe Rabbeinu and said, why should we be deficient? Why should we be lacking? Why should we be missing this Pesach, this korban? The though they knew the cause and the reason that they're not able to bring the korban, and they themselves said this at the beginning of their words. They said, because we were impure by coming in contact with a dead body. Still in all, they complained with the full force, why should we be missing? How could it be, whatever the reason could be, that we are not able to bring the korban? In other words, there are different types of why questions. I like to tell people there is the why question where you're trying to find an explanation, or there's a why question when you're trying to find a way out of something. For example, a child that's asking you by bedtime, why do I have to go to sleep? They don't want an explanation, a logical explanation. Well, you need to go to sleep, so you should be able to be rested, so you should be able to get up the next morning, et cetera, and feel well. They're not interested in answers. It's not about explanations, and they may even know the explanation. But their why is a why of protest. Same thing that Rebbe says, the Yidden knew full well the logical reason why it was impossible for them to bring the korban Pesach, but rather what the Yidden wanted to know is why should they be left out, and they took exception to that they should not be left out. So the Rebbe goes on to say, just like that the Yidden complained and said, why Tainazu, this complaint, this complaint, why should we be lacking without offering the korban of Hashem? It is also, and the Rebbe says parenthetically, not just it's also, but it's primarily concerning the time when the Yidden wanted to go. The state and situation of the Yidden during the time of Godless is in such a way that they were impure because of the dead body. What does that mean? Why are Yidden in the time of Godless called impure? Because of contact with a dead body. Though we say that you, the Jewish people, are cleaving in Hashem your God, and therefore you are all alive. Life is connected with holiness. Life is connected with Hashem. The ad l'chaim nitzchit, till and including also everlasting life. Believe hefsek ben time, top of the next page, without any type of hefsek. The Rebbe a lot of times says that the not like it's brought down in some places that between when Mashiach comes and Tchias HaMesim, there's going to have to be a time when a person passes away, or even if it doesn't have to be, some people have experienced that. That they passed away, and then they will have to get up at Tchias HaMesim. But rather, the Rebbe always emphasizes that it should be Chaim Nitzchim, it should be everlasting life, to go straight from our present life into an everlasting life without any type of separation between them. Kol and still in all, all of us are considered that we are impure because of contact with a dead body. How come? It's because our connection with the generations that preceded us, that they are not alive. So therefore, since we are a continuation of those generations, so we are considered as if we have been in contact with a dead body. But the Gmasa Beruchni is, its a corresponding level in the spiritual is, though all the foretold ends of time, all the times that Chazal said that Mashiach has to come because such and such has occurred, all of these have already passed by. Still in all, we are still found in Godless because of the negative things that were in previous generations. Beginning from the generation of the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash, and the generation of the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash. In other words, those generations are the reasons that we are now presently in Godless. They were the ones that caused the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash. They were the ones that caused the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash, and we are connected with those previous generations that they are already not alive. They are already, we were in contact with a dead body, and because of them, we are Tamei as well, and we are in Godless. So just like the people in the wilderness that couldn't bring a Korban Pesach because they were in contact with a dead body, the same thing, we can't bring the Korbanos because we are also in contact, in connection with, and a continuation of what happened then during the destruction of the first and second Beis Hamikdash. Second paragraph, concerning this, the Bnei Yisrael cry out, why should we be missing that we should not offer the Korban of Hashem? How is it possible that we are still found in a time of exile? The Beis Hamikdash is destroyed. It's impossible for us to bring the Korbanos. So we cry out and say, how is this possible? Just like that in those days, they were crying out, we can't bring the Pesach Sheni. How are we still in Godless? How are we still in the time when there's no Beis Hamikdash and you can't bring the Korbanos? The Rebbe says that our cry is even deeper and greater than the cry of those in the times of the Midbar, that they were very few that weren't able to bring the Korban Pesach. The Rebbe is going to say how much greater our cry is. How much more so that the cry that we feel and we are experiencing and we are saying to Hashem, why should we be missing? Is so much more than what they cried out then in the Midbar. The complaint, why should we be missing that? Concerning that, it says in the pasuk, it was only a complaint, only about a few people. The majority of Klal Yisrael were able to bring the Korban Pesach. There were a few people that were tummy, that couldn't bring the carbon base. Base, second thing is, it wasn't concerning not being able to bring all the carbonos they would have to bring. No, when the time would come, and beforehand, later on, they were able to bring carbonos. It was just one particular carbon. It was just a carbon Pesach they missed out. As opposed to what we are missing, it's everybody, not just a few people. And it's not just one carbon, the carbon Pesach, but it's everything. All the carbonos, the entire Beis Hamikdash. And the third point is the carbon, this one carbon that the Yidden were missing then in the wilderness, that because of that they said, Lamed in Gadam, it says, She'ene b'shleimus the shara carbonis. It's not the same perfection of other carbonis, mitzad sheichusay lePesach Mitzrayim, because of its connection to Pesach Mitzrayim. In addition to the fact that this was before Matan Torah, before we spoke, before Hashem told them and spoke to them, like Yikrivuhu, like Hizu as Damai al Gabi Mizbeach, B'Makram Yuchel LaKravas HaKarbonis. They did not offer the carbon Pesach, and they did not sprinkle its blood upon a Mizbeach in a special place where the carbonos were brought. A Mishkan, Hamikdash, the Mishkan, the Beis Hamikdash, Bais Lashem Muchan Lislam Makriv Carbonis, a place that's set and ready to offer it the carbonis. Ki'im, rather, where did the Eden place the blood? Nesinas Adam al Shtei HaMezuzos VaHamashkei, the placing of the blood on the two doorposts and on the lintel. You can skip the parentheses. Al Habotim Asher Yochlo Yisum Bahem, on the houses that they will eat it in them. Not only that, al Shabotim Atzmam Biachtem Neisrol Shebehem Hoye Beret Mitzrayim Tach Shritos Shepari. That was in the land of Mitzrayim, under the rule of Pari, the very homes with the Eden that lived in the home. Now let's take that and compare what we are missing. We are not missing a carbon Pesach that has to do with Pari and Mitzrayim. We're missing Beis Hamikdash. We're missing the holy state. As opposed to the complaint. Why should we be lacking concerning the time of Godless? First of all, it's concerning all Yid. Beis, it's talking about all the carbonos. Gimel, the third thing is the carbonos and carbonos in their most perfect state. Not a carbon that's brought in Mitzrayim, sprinkled the blood on the doorpost, not on the Mizbeach, but the way it was supposed to be brought on the Mizbeach and the Beis Hamikdash B'Eretz Yisrael. So the Rebbe says, and here it's emphasized, obviously the Rebbe said this very forcefully when he was speaking about the Farbrengen, Hayitochen, how is it possible? That for a duration of more than 1,900 years, lo yecholim kol bnei Yisrael lahakriv karbonos Beis Hamikdash. That then, that we're not able to, not then, but we're not able, the entire bnei Yisrael, to bring karbonos in the Beis Hamikdash. And another thing primary, Yitzias Mitzrayim, Pesach Mitzrayim, going out of Mitzrayim, the Pesach that they brought Mitzrayim, there were many different Yidden that did not want to go out of Mitzrayim. Until Pari needed to send them out and even chase them out of Mitzrayim. Like it says, with a strong hand he will send them out, and a strong hand he will chase them out of his land. So the Chazal explain al Karcham, that this was against the will of certain Yidden that wanted to remain behind the Mitzrayim. B'shalach Pari on. That's why it says when Pari will send out the nation, that Pari had to chase them out. Only then did the Jewish people become free. As opposed to the future redemption, there won't be any need to chase a Yid out of the exile. Because he on his own cries out, why should we be lacking? Why should we be missing? Next page. V'maynu l'tayis me Yisrael as man Godless loman nigorel bilti hakriv korban Hashem binyan shel Pesach Sheni, and the response to the time of the Yid concerning the time of exile. Why should we be missing and not be able to offer the korban of Hashem in the matter of Pesach Sheni? Im b'negiel l'chesaron d'akravas korban Pesach pam achas etzel echad mi Yisrael. A meres ha'torah she'ein zedavar ha'avud kivin she'mesachnim u'mashlim machesaron. If when it comes to the lack of one person, one Jewish person, one time missing out on bringing the korban Pesach, the Torah says it's not too late because we fix it up and we complete that which was missing. So if that is that way concerning one korban by one individual Jew, so surely b'negeya l'chisaron da'akravas kol ha'korbanos b'meshach karav l'alpayim shana etzel kol bnei Yisrael, surely concerning the lack of the bringing of all the korbanos for a duration of almost 2,000 years by all the Yidden, bevadai ubevadai she'ein ze davar ha'avud kivin she'mesaknim u'mashlim machesaron. Surely this is not something that's lost, like the Friedrich Rebbe said, that's nishtokim verfallen, since we are repairing it and we are completing that which is lacking. So the Rebbe explains, and this we need to preface something else. Though also in the time of Godless, we complete the idea of offering the Korbanos through saying and reciting the parshas and Torah that speak about the Korbanos. Concerning this idea, it says, that our lips will complete and take the place for the oxen, for the bullocks that were brought in the Beis Hamikdash. So the Rebbe says, this doesn't reach, and it's not similar to the true perfection that comes about through bringing the Korbanos in the physical sense, in the literal sense. An animal brought from the living beings, alongside with every korban was brought a meal offering, and the meal offering was brought from flour, which is from growing things, from vegetation. Melach, and every korban had to have salt on it. I'll call korban chatakr melach, and every one of your korbanos should offer salt. Min hadoimim, from the inanimate, inorganic parts of our existence. So we have all three things: chai, tzemeach, udoimim, living, vegetation, and inorganic. Uba'ofen shekulam gimla asugim the tzemeach chai. All these three levels of Doim Tzmeach Chai become joined together through the highest of the four kinds, through the human being that brings the offering. So therefore, the just saying the words doesn't come to the actual korbanos that's brought in the Beis Hamikdash. Therefore, we cannot say that just because we recite in davening the korbanos and so on, so then it's as if we actually brought the korbanos. Zem movement for this understood. What is the true response to the complaint when we say, why should we be missing all the korbanos for close to 2,000 years? Is the akravas hakarbonos begashis kipshutam sheyichaserim b'meshach karev l'alpayim shnois hagolos, that through the fact that we fix up all the matters of bringing physical, literal korbanos that were missing for close to 2,000 years of Godless, shekolze yisukon v'yushlam b'Beis Hamikdash hashlishi, all of this will be only fixed up and repaired by the third Beis Hamikdash, Mikdash Adonai Kohen Yedecha, the Mikdash of Hashem, your own hands prepared. Shebanu Meshuchol Yigalim Yavim and Hashemayim, it'll become revealed and come down from heavens, built and already ready. Uboyi Aklulim Gam by Esrishon Shenivna B'Chaydish Ziv Kanal Sif Aleph, and by Sheni it'll be also included at the first Beis Hamikdash. which is in the beginning of the Sikha, the Rebbe said the first Beis Hamikdash was built in the month of Ziv, the month of Iyar. And also the second Beis Hamikdash will be included in it. And in that third Beis Hamikdash, everything that we were missing, all the 2,000 years of Godless will be fixed up. Yes, like if we can add, the very fact that the Yidden are found in exile, that they're not able to bring korbanos, just like the people in the times of the Pesach Sheni said, "Labilti hakriv es korban Hashem," that they are incapable of offering the korban of Hashem. Who inyan shall korban? This itself is a sacrifice. Yidden are sacrificing themselves in not offering the korbanos, in not insisting that they should take us out. Listen to what the Rebbe says of you. To such a degree, to such a degree, this is a sacrifice like no other sacrifice what the Yidden have been going through the last 2,000 years. Korban Adam ki yakir mekem korban Lashem inyan mesiras nefesh. The true idea of a korban is the idea of self-sacrifice. That's what it means, a korban. Ve'ein lecha mesiras nefesh gedoyle mezu. There is no greater self-sacrifice. Sheyehudi maniach shakadosh baruch hu yasherois begolus. That a yid allows Hashem to let him stay in golus. Yachol haya Yehudi levalvel as kol seder ishtalshus. A Jew would have the capability to turn over all the spiritual worlds. Kidei lemnoya, to prevent shebno yechida shemalach malcham lach makadosh baruch hu b'chvoida be'atzmai, that the only child of the King of Kings Hashem in his own glory and essence, which who is that only child? Kol echad ve'echad Yisrael, every single yid. Yid begolus should remain in golus. A yid would be able to turn everything over to stop that from happening. Obviously, the Rebbe is talking about a certain singular yid. How can it be a yid would how a yid could complain? That Hashem leaves him in golus, and especially in a long golus. Elef shanim, 1,000 years, until close to 2,000 years. Golus kasha, and a difficult golus. Like all difficulties of golus that were heaven forfend in the previous generations prior to this, until the final generation, right before this generation, in other words, what went on in the Holocaust, and also in this generation, that by the kindness of Hashem, we find ourselves in a government of kindness that ever calls the American government, and in general, what the governments of the present time, the Western countries, are all governments of kindness. That they do great favors to Yidden, that they should be able to study Torah and fulfill mitzvahs in such a way that they're calm in spirit and calm in body, and out of comfort. Someone that fulfills the Torah out of riches. This is, after all, a state and situation of exile. That is the greatest advantage and the greatest quality. Until the greatest self-sacrifice that's possible to be by the Jewish people. They did not mix into Hashem's running the world. Even though, because of this, they chas v'sholom lost on the opportunity of all the matters that they would have been able to do over 1,900 years of golus. So the Rebbe concludes, as Kol in Yonim Sheichsiru Bezman Agolos Kanal Sivdalad, though Hashem will surely fulfill, like we said before, all the matters that they were lacking during the time of Golus, like we said in Ois Dalad, Va'ad l'shleimus kazush b'nei Yisrael yoimru oid chavaya, to such a degree of perfection that the Eden will say, I thank you, Hashem, sheyoidu l'HaKadosh Baruch ala Golus, that will, when Mashiach comes, will thank Hashem for the exile. Harei b'haidah atzma, in the thanks itself, madgishim v'oimrim, we are emphasizing and saying, oidcha Hashem ki onafta bi. I thank you, Hashem, that you were angry with me. That idea and the matters of Golos are an idea of anger. So Pisa moving on Kesher Vashaychas the Pesach Sheni, Lechodesh Ziv Oir V'Gilui, Sheboy Mizgala in Yonei Hamiti Shal Golos Idea Gula. This is understood, the connection with Pesach Sheni. That Pesach Sheni is on the 14th of the month of Ziv. The month of Iyar, which we said before, is called Ziv, from the word light and revelation. That in this is in the Pesach Sheni is revealed. That's why it's called light. The true idea of Golus through Geula. Tying the Lama Negadol ability Hakravis Karm Hashem in the complaint. Why are we going to be lacking and missing without being able to sacrifice and offer the carbon of Hashem? And by the response, that's nothing is lost. This is in Yonish Pesach Sheni. Why is nothing lost? Because we're always able to repair. We always have a second chance, which is the idea of Pesach Sheni. Mizgala in Yonai Hamiti Shal Golos is revealed the true concept of the Golos. Aleph. One thing is what's revealed. The etzem ha'uvda shebnei Yisrael nimtzoim begolos b'mayim the matzav the ability lahakras korban Hashem. They're in such a state that they're not able to bring the korbanos mesiras nafsham, their self-sacrifice korban Hashem. That Yidden offer a korban to Hashem shaloilim noyas hagolos, so they did not stop the golos. They could have stopped the golos, the Rebbe says. Beis that we are having the repair and the filling of the lack, the akrovas hakorbanos of offering the korbanos b'meshach kol shnois hagolos throughout all the years of the golos. In addition to the idea that our oxen will be fulfilled and taking the place by what we say with our lips. Yeshna gam hashleimus the akrovas hakorbanos kipshutam when Mashiach comes. We will have also the perfection of actually bringing the korbanos of all those 1900 years that we missed. In addition to this, and this is what's primary, we see in actuality and revealed the entire purpose of Golus is only that through that we should come to the ultimate revelation of the Geula Shalachain Yoimru. Therefore, they will say, Hashem ki anaftabi. I thank you, Hashem, that you are angry with me. Sheyoidu ala Golus. That when Mashiach comes, we'll give thanks for the Golus. Kivan shaydeza dafke bo la ilu da Gula mitzvah shlema. Only through this we came to the advantage of the true and complete redemption. And this should be that way very, very soon, immediately today. Okay.
We'll
stop over here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.